The greatest driver of all time debate. Some call it pointless, and yeah, fair enough. It is hard to compare different drives from different generations because of different cars, different times in F1, but nevertheless, they're fun to do, and it creates a talking point. So I thought, why not do my top 10 F1 drives of all time, with part 1 being 10 to 6. So here we go. So in at number 10 is the last surviving champion from the 1960s. He won the title in 1969, 71 and 73. It is the Flying Scot, Sir Jackie Stewart. And as you can see, being the triple world champion, the stats speak for themselves. He won 27 Grand Prix, 17 pole positions and 43 podiums. And we all know how quick he was, but his main legacy on Formula 1 was improving the safety, because back in the 60s, a driver dying in a race was unfortunately the norm. Safety was just non-existent, and so he played a key role in bringing improved safety to the sport. He helped it become mandatory for drivers to wear seatbelts. He made it mandatory for full face coverings on helmets, and he put pressure on track owners to modernise their circuit. Now in at 9 is someone I think people forget just how good he was and how good for Formula 1 he's been. He's a 4-time world champion. He's won 53 race wins, 57 pole positions and 120 podiums. He was once deemed Baby Schumi. It's Sebastian Vettel. And in his years at Red Bull from 2010 to 2013, he was just incredible, so quick and just at times unstoppable. And the stats speak for themselves. He also has many records. He's got the record for the most poles in a season, most wins in a season, and the most consecutive wins in the season. He's a bit lower down on this list now is because of what sort of happened since those titles. The year after his 4th title, Ricciardo came into Red Bull and just beat Vettel and forced him out of the team. Ricciardo won 2 races that year compared to Vettel's 0. And then Vettel went to Ferrari, and at the start he was doing well at Ferrari, but then Charles Leclerc came in last year and sort of Ricciardo 2.0. Charles Leclerc's just beat Vettel, and sort of because of Leclerc, Vettel's now looking for a team next year. Now in 8th is a champion I think a lot of people will have forgotten about and don't speak enough about. He's a double world champion, it's Jim Clark. He won his titles in 1963 and 1965. He won 34.25% of his races, which is the joint 3rd highest ever with Lewis Hamilton. So he won 25 races and 33 pole positions. But tragically, he died in 1968 at the Hockenheimring. But even so, he was a great driver, and one that everybody at the time looked up to, including Sir Jackie Stewart, which is why I've put him above Stewart on this list. Stewart once said about Clark, "We became known as Batman and Robin, but I think everybody knew who Batman was and who Robin was." I.e., Clark was Batman, Stewart was Robin. Stewart said he didn't force the car as much as others. He was just caressing the car, and he was smoother than anyone else. But what else separated Jim Clark was his ability in the wet. At the 1963 Belgian Grand Prix, he started in 8th, but he won the race in heavy wet conditions, 5 minutes ahead of Bruce McLaren in 2nd, who was the only driver in that race on the same lap as Clark. In 7th is a man I think is very unlucky to not have more world titles. It's double world champion Fernando Alonso. 32 race wins, 97 podiums and 22 pole positions. He was the man to end Michael Schumacher's dominance with Ferrari by winning his titles with Renault in 05 and 06. But following this just came bad move after bad move going to different underperforming cars, which ultimately dented his hopes of more titles. But even so, we could still see how complete of a driver he was. For example, in 2012, with a very underperforming Ferrari car compared to how good of a Red Bull it was, he took the fight with Vettel to the final day, ultimately before Vettel won. But even so, whilst Alonso took the title fight to the last day, his teammate Massa could only manage 7th in the championship, over 100 points behind Alonso. So we can still see how much talent Alonso has. And the reason I put Alonso above Vettel is because if it was the other way around with Alonso in the Red Bull that year and Vettel in the Ferrari, would Vettel have still taken the title fight to the last day? I don't think so. Now in at 6th, for the final part of this video, is triple world champion Niki Lauda. 25 race wins, 24 pole positions and 54 podiums. Despite being an amazing driver, he's most known for that comeback he made after the 1976 German Grand Prix. He swerved off track, hit an embankment and collided with another car, in which Lauda was then trapped under the wreckage, under fire, and suffered extensive burns to his head and various other injuries. But even so, despite almost dying, he only missed 2 races before coming back to F1 for the 1976 Italian Grand Prix, where he finished 4th. How he did that I don't know, and is one of the reasons why he's so high up. But even better, despite coming back so soon, he then won the title the next year, and again a few years later. So there's the first part of my top 10 greatest drivers of all time, 10th to 6th. Is there anyone you think I missed out? Anyone you think should be in that 6th to 10th category? Let us know in the comment section below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, visit our website f1.co.uk, and I'll see you next time for the next part of this list where I go from 5th to 1st.